Down, 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 down. That's just what we're reduced to because I don't have my iPad that can work and play the intro music. It's GloucesterCast 335.
There's got to be a way we can
figure it out.
Yeah. There's got to be a way.
You got to bring the music back.
I'm scarred. I'm deeply scarred when we record 35 minutes and that app just shuts down and our content goes into the clouds. Into the interwebs. Black hole.
Yeah,
podcast secrets out there that nobody's going to hear.
But today we are using some high tech technology, aren't
yes.
we? We have this new janky microphone stand that we're working with.
Yeah. So what is it? It's sitting on a tripod. Oh, I just did. Sorry. It's sitting on a tripod, right? What kind of little?
It's sitting on a tripod that has a cell phone camera mount attached to the little standard camera mount.
And what did you call it? Janky?
Janky. Janky is I bet you if you look up janky in the dictionary that it's a word.
Yes, I've heard it. Yeah.
We're going to use that on our...
Does it start with J? Does it start with J?
It's a new word as of today.
Okay, we gotta look it up.
The Urban Dictionary.
Kim, do the introductions while I look it up.
Joey is giving birth to a word.
Okay, today we have with us David Calvo, Heidi.
Hi there.
Hi. Hi, Heidi.
Good morning.
Hi, Heidi. Pat.
Hi, good morning, Gloucester.
And me, and then our host, Joey.
The commando.
Hello. Good morning, Gloucester.
Good
Great commando.
Dictionary, janky.
What?
Adjective.
Really?
Of extremely poor or unreliable quality. In use, the software is pretty janky.
Okay.
It couldn't be any more appropriate, right?
It was perfect. Perfect word.
Did I
know
use
that word, or did that word just come to you?
It just came
No, I know that word.
You know that
I've
word?
heard it.
I don't think I've heard it.
I've heard it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Before.
You're hip and
I'm right in there with
you
the
hear
kids.
all the good.
It's lit.
I guess that's
Yeah.
I think
where I hang.
I think we should have a podcast.
Thirst
word.
trap.
I think we should have
Word
a
of the day.
Word of the day.
You know, okay. What I don't know what I've heard this term bandied about on Instagram, thirst trap, and I don't know what it means. But I'm gonna look it up right now.
Well, you know, if somebody's thirsty, they want attention.
That's what it is. Okay.
A thirst trap?
Okay.
Well, thirst trap. I've never heard, but thirsty is like you want attention. Like you're thirsty. You're going after. You know, I heard it on Southern. I heard it on Southern Charm a lot.
So a thirst trap is a sexy photo posted on social media to attract attention.
Yep.
It can also refer to a person considered sexy, a social media
Well, that's quite a picture
crush.
that they show with the definition.
Well,
there. Oh my
David's
God.
like all over the.
It's like a very buff man with his shoes and his skivvies. So.
Yeah, so you post that and you get a lot of likes.
So if you're thirsty, you're desperate for attention. A thirst trap is someone that provides.
Well, you put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if we can use those two words today during the podcast.
In the context, right?
I don't know if it's going to be possible.
That's not a bad idea. My son always tells me, Dad, did you get your facts for the day yet? No, I haven't. Let me give you your fact for the day, okay? So you can have a word for the day. You know, here's your word for the day. All the time. Dad, did I forget to give you the fact for the day? No, I haven't written yet, Leon. Here it is.
And he gives you a fact?
All the time.
Yeah. Oh,
Leon must be getting ready. The stripers are showing up. He must be getting hungry to go striper fishing.
He's going with your daughter to D.C. starting next week.
Yeah, next week they're going
they go
big D.C. trip. They're going to be going, and wonderful. Jimmy's going to be coming back the same day.
Is that is that a fifth grade class? Activity?
Fifth.
I'm sorry,
Eighth grade.
Eighth grade.
I'm sorry, I meant to
Those
say
are
eighth
big
grade.
timers.
Yeah.
Eighth grade before high school, they go on a big DC trip. Yeah.
I think when my daughter was in, it was canceled because 911 had happened. So
no. So speaking of DC, who's there right now at this very moment getting ready for his son's graduation? Our friend Chris McCarthy. His son Connor McCarthy just graduated from GW, and the graduation is today. That's why he's
congratulations,
Yeah.
Chris and
that's
son.
wonderful.
What's his son's name?
Connor.
Connor.
Okay.
So Connor is this guy who's going to be very, very successful. He's a handsome young man. He's quiet, but I can see in the back. The wheels are always turning.
Wow.
He's constantly networking. Like he'll listen to the podcast and be like, "Hey Joe, that sounded like an interesting thing. Some businessman was on or something." He's like, "Can you give me that guy's number?" And he'll just like call the guy. This
It's gonna be
kid.
fine.
I could tell
very
underneath that
interesting.
layer of like wanting to succeed and whatever. He'll be a great marketer or whatever, right? But
That's
I can tell that with the ladies, he's an absolute savage killer, but silent. I call him this. So every time they post a picture of him, I do #SilentAssassin because he's very laid back. I can see how I've seen how he operates in a room full of young women, and he's very like quiet and reserved, and but he's kind of like whispering, like like some kind of things in their ear, like probably making fun of the old people to seem cool or whatever.
The first time I met him, where we were at a barbecue or at Mike Coder's house, and Mike clipped me some roses. And before Connor left, he said to me, "I'm going to go meet some friends. Can I take some of those roses with me?"
Oh,
I was like, so that was my first
you
impression,
go.
and I thought,
Silent assassin.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, this kid's going places.
Yeah,
Believe me.
precisely.
So there you go. So yesterday was the first nice Saturday
Oh, it was gorgeous.
after a brutal May, brutal end of April.
All of
Been a tough
April.
spring.
All of April.
All of
Tough.
April.
This is a typical. It's been a typical. We won't get because we always talk about the weather, but what I want to talk about the weather in this instance is that first warm Saturday of any year is a magical day.
It is.
And it was yesterday, for sure.
Yeah.
And it
for
was.
Sure.
And
It's
it was.
Happy Vitamin D Day.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It
There
really
is
was.
definitely something physiological
Yes.
that happens in people on that first warm day where they can wear shorts and
It's funny you said
Flip-flops
that
and
because, like, I got up really early and I went filming, and then I dragged Charlotte to the beach all during the middle of the day. Then after she went to bed, I went out. I still wasn't ready to
Right.
let it go, and I went
Right.
out filming some more, and it was just like, really, just
those-
just
It's
full of
almost
energy.
like you're
and,
automatically happy.
yeah.
Everybody's
Yeah.
disposition changes.
Everybody's
when
disposition
the sun comes out,
changes.
everybody's disposition changes
Yeah.
in the spring.
if
Yeah.
those so the marathon, it usually happens on like the third Monday in April.
April, yeah.
And most of the time where we live in Boston, it's
Patriots
rainy
Day.
and cool and misty. But on those marathons, when it is sunny and warm, down on Boylston Street, if you're a young single person, I am quite certain 9 months later that there are a big baby boom.
So what would that be?
I bet you if you track, I bet you know how they say that, 9 months after
January.
Valentine's Day is a
So
big.
are there a lot of January babies
Lot
in
of January
Massachusetts?
I
babies.
bet you
in
if
Boston
you
area? We'll have to
tracked
find out.
on like 75 or warmer degree Marathon Mondays, the birth rate in Boston, Massachusetts, 9 months later would be
Yes.
probably off the
So that's January.
off the rails.
So let's
Are you
let's
part
try
of
to
that
find that out.
statistic,
Let's
Joey?
find that out.
Well, hopefully I'm not. And there was someone running around when I was, from my younger days. But yeah, it was a great time being young and single in Boston. Kim posted the Fiesta. The Fiesta schedule is out.
Fiesta schedule is out. Should have gone up at 9 this morning.
Yeah, it's
The
out. I
Fiesta-
linked to it, and I'm just going to give a couple of the notes. When I was a kid, Fiesta really started on Thursday, but they've kind of
added Wednesday.
they've added Wednesday.
Wednesday, yeah.
So if you consider Wednesday the first day, that's June 26th. Saturday of Fiesta is June 29th, and June 30th is Sunday of Fiesta.
And also, they even provided next year's dates as well.
Wow.
I put that at the end of the post either. This is from the St. Peter's official website. So
Yeah.
they said save the date for next year. So they actually have next year's dates already all figured
So
out.
that's good to know that next week's dates, the Fiesta lands all the way in June. It was was it a year or two ago? It had always been the rule that the last Sunday always had to be in June.
Yeah.
But they broke it a year or
I think
two
it was
ago.
last year, wasn't
Was it last year?
I think it was.
And what happens then, if the Sunday is like the 1st of July, then 2 days later you have 3rd of July. Horrible spread.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
And
It
it's
was
kind of,
good.
to
It was
me,
so good. It was
Yeah.
so
I
close.
like it spread out a little bit
Yeah.
because
It's
it's a
usually
lot.
the weekend before the 4th of July weekend.
Weekend,
Like
yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
They try and try.
Yeah.
They really want
Well,
to
it's
do
all.
it that way, but
It
it's
used
just
to be the
something-
rule was it always the last Sunday had to be in June.
Yeah, but
Right.
they changed it this year because it was so the last Sunday, right? Was
Well, it's, yeah,
I mean, they
it's
changed
a
it last
normal.
year.
They
Yeah.
did it
We
the
should
normal.
be part. I think we're part of the Fiesta schedule. I believe.
How?
are you in? Are you
Oh, look at you! How on Saturday morning.
You give it to him, Heidi.
On Saturday morning, playtime stories that I do with the little kids.
That's gonna be the highlight of most people's Fiesta.
Well, you know what?
Not the greasy pole, not the same boat races,
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
pie eating contest. Yeah.
Well,
the
if you have
playtime
a
stories.
2-year-old,
Yeah.
you know, you're not going. What? There aren't a ton of activities that a 2-year-old. So with playtime stories, we're doing Laura Ventimiglia's book.
Oh, that's nice.
Nona, What is St. Peter's Fiesta? And we did it last year, and we did book signings, which I think we're going to do this year. Hopefully, Laura will be there. And we did a book signing, and you could buy the book, and we did Nona, What is St. Peter's Fiesta? And then another Italian-themed story. And then for the craft, because, you know, we performed the stories with the illustrations. We had our own little St. Peter and everything, and carried her around, and dressed kids up for the greasy pole, and did everything. And then we do a craft
It's
relating
like a mini fiesta.
Yep, it is. It is. And then we do a
mini
craft
fiesta.
relating to the story, and we made little mini same boats,
Oh, nice.
and they made flags and named them.
So
for
that's
the
all
teams.
at the that's
Saturday morning
Saturday
at the
morning
stage
at the
company.
Gloucester Stage Company.
Yep, 10
Well,
a.m.
I can add that in there. I can add that in there. in
Yeah.
the post.
Yeah,
You
so
know.
it's gonna be fun, and we had the most. It was the best attended Playtime Stories in the history of Playtime Stories. We squeezed like 100 people in the lobby. Oh, and
wow.
also you get free coffee and donuts too.
Boom.
Boom.
Don't-
Boom.
I'll be nursing a hangover
That just
somewhere.
went to the top of Jimmy's
Yeah.
list right there.
We're gonna do some.
And cookies from Sandpiper, maybe she offered too.
Wow.
Oh.
Does she have a kid that goes there?
She has a young child. And
Must, right? Because the stuff. Yeah, that's awesome. That's
she's,
very generous of her.
she's in, because I went in there and asked me, she's like, do you have anything for 2-year-olds? I'm like, as a matter of fact, we do.
My daughter's that's become a Saturday morning thing, going to Sandpiper for a pastry and
Oh, isn't it wonderful?
That's
Their
fantastic.
pastries there. The twice cooked almond croissants.
Oh, I have to order those in
Making me
advance.
hungry.
So I
Yeah.
make sure I have
Yes,
them.
you have to get them. You have to ask for them in advance.
Rose Ice Cream Shop is open. That's on Bass Ave.
Right.
That's
Right
recently
there.
open.
Yeah.
The Last Stop Variety is open under new management.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you know who the people are?
No, I don't know them.
I'm pretty sure she said her name was Nancy Eager, something like that.
I've seen them around, and we've been wondering when they were going to open, and
Wow.
So they're open.
we're
right?
very excited.
Have you been in?
Yeah, I went.
Did it
in.
seem like they kept all the same
It
recipes?
looks
and stuff?
very similar to what it did before.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks very similar. Just a little cleaned out. Like I'm sure they're going to fill those spaces with their own stuff, but they were up and ready to roll and had stuff in the coolers. They want to offer
I
some
hope that place
helpful-
stays there forever.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, whatever it is going to be, it's going to be. But like,
right.
it's a little
It's
East
a nice
Gloucester
little.
It's a
treasure.
little treasure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
you
it's a
know,
little
we've
treasure.
lost
Yeah.
we lost the East Gloucester variety. That's a house now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you know the one at East Gloucester Square.
I know that's Don
Right.
Saruf's house.
Yeah.
Right.
Huh?
That's Don Saruf's house.
Yeah.
Don and John.
Yeah.
The
That was a
two of
long
them.
time ago that
Yeah.
disappeared.
Yeah.
No, I know. Because
Oh, they made
when
it,
I was a
didn't they?
kid,
Right,
I
they
mean, I
made
was
it
9
long
years.
time
ago.
I'm
Yeah.
51, so
Right.
42 years ago,
Right.
my cousin and I would ride our bikes down there
Right.
and
No, I remember it too.
get candy there, and then we'd go to Sala's because the next house was a restaurant, and Sala's coffee shop.
Oh yeah. God, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, and they had the 99-cent special, 2 eggs and toast and bacon. I don't know if bacon was included or not for 99 cents.
And they still have George's coffee shop. The Sala family owns George's.
Yeah, different Salas.
Different sides.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I just interviewed Scott Sala for he did solar, and he's I just was with one of the sons. They don't the Sala family. They grew up on Hammond.
They're our neighbors. They live, our house.
Scott. They bought
the Kippens house. They bought the Kippens house.
Right. Not which Sala? Married the Lupo girl, Donna Lupo.
Is that's
Steve Sala?
Steve
Sala bought
Steve.
bought the Kippens house.
Did you ever walk to Papagino's?
Huh?
Papagino's for pizza. Remember when Papagino's was
Of course,
down?
we used to ride our bikes down there, and you put your quarter in, you listen to the music.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Where-
And I get like the
Do
special.
you know where Papagino's was?
No.
Papagino's was where CVS building used to be. There used to be like 4 stores. There was the Hallmark store.
Hallmark store.
There was
Where the CVS
Papagino's.
Papagino's. Was CVS
Over
there?
the Stop and Shop.
What else was there?
Like behind Cape Ann Coffee.
I
Really?
think
And
CVS.
then Kentucky Fried Chicken is where the
That was before we lived here in 1990.
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Kentucky Fried
I
Chicken
think I
on Bass Ave.
We used to spend all day at the beach, and then at like 6 o'clock, be like, "We're hungry," and my grandmother and I would send my mother up, and she'd get Kentucky Fried Chicken, and we'd eat Kentucky Fried on the beach.
Does anybody know where to get fried chicken? I know Short and Main they have amazing fried chicken on Thursday nights in the winter.
But quick to go fried chicken.
Is there any place that has? Really
Well, there was
good-
that place that was short lived where Turtle Alley used to be, like,
Yeah.
three generations
yeah,
ago in
yeah.
Washington.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't
yeah, what was-
Kentucky Fried? It was
Yeah.
something else.
I never.
Kentucky Fried, that was in East Gloucester, wasn't it?
That was where East Gloucester Variety was.
Yeah.
East Gloucester Square Variety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it used to be so fun to walk to Papagino's.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Listen to
Used
the music. I'd get like the special with a piece of pizza and a Coke. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fantastic, and they had the same people work there for like 20 years, the whole
Oh,
time.
really? Oh,
And
that's sweet.
it was a cool place. It was like a cool, it was like nowadays the kids, 11 years old don't ride bikes from where I live to down there. You know what I mean? It's like the parents have a heart attack. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They have to be driven there.
Yeah.
The parents have to wait in the car for 2 hours, and then they come out and then they drive them back home.
In our, in our neighborhood, we have free range kids.
You do,
Yeah,
yeah.
we
Plum
have-
Street, you get that cool
Yeah.
network. Over
And when
there.
I lived in Riverdale,
Gloucester.
because I lived on Washington Street, right next to the Old Mill. So I used to go to the Old Mill ice cream store,
Right.
like from the time I could walk. And then when I was older and I could have a little more freedom, I used to walk to Willow Rest and sit at the.
Does anybody
counter.
sell ice cream in that neighborhood anymore? The Old Mill ice cream, that used to be big. We used to go there after like Babe Ruth games, Little League games.
That
Captain
was
Carlos, right?
awesome.
Is that what you're talking about?
They don't-
Captain
No.
Hooks is
Captain
building
Richdale.
next door. Yeah.
Richdale.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Richdale is there now.
Richdale. And
But they do sell ice cream at Captain Hook.
Oh, they
Oh,
do?
do they?
Yeah, right.
Oh, I
next
didn't
door.
know that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I thought it was more subs and pizzas.
I don't think they do. Now I don't know. Now I shouldn't have put my foot in my mouth, but I'm pretty sure they do.
All right.
Well, someone should sell ice cream down there.
Well, that was the point. The point is, like, each neighborhood should have an ice cream place.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, Mill was so fun. And you could sit and have the ice cream on the rocks in the back.
Right.
We lived in the house right next to it.
Oh, wow.
And we moved because a car came down the hill, hit my mother's car, turned it around, and pushed it through our living room.
Yeah, that'd be enough for me, too.
Yeah, we were renting. It was tough. I couldn't cross the street. I didn't cross the street on my own till I was like 11 because people were
So
like,
you were 18.
Oh, that's like a
Yeah.
track. That's like a
Right.
racetrack over
Racetrack.
there.
and you know
You know
what
what
else?
the most dangerous? I think the most dangerous intersection in town is that we're coming out of the where the Willow Rest is. You know that how that goes up to
Yeah.
Holly
Yeah.
Street,
Yeah.
like the cars are coming down there, like,
They're
zoom,
coming
zoom,
really
zoom, and people are walking out of the Willow Rest,
I think
dodging
There's
for the.
a
Yeah.
guy there with the flags. It should be okay. You know?
Need
the
something.
racing
when
flags.
I lived over there, you know what I used to do for fun? One of my fun things to do, being an only child, you come up with your own. I had a little kiddie chair of mine, and I used to sit in the chair and sit on the sidewalk and waved to people when they drove by.
That's the saddest story I've ever heard in my entire life.
That's why you got interested in being in acting. You had a lot of imaginary friends.
That's
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
So
I used
sad.
to sit out there.
Nowadays, you'd be abducted in 3 minutes.
And my grandmother was
They'd
home.
be sending out an Amber Alert, weekly Amber Alert for Heidi
Well, it
Dallin.
would have been
And
called the
people
Heidi
used to,
alert.
The Heidi
people
alert,
used
yeah.
to say to my mother, I saw Heidi outside. She waved to me when I went by. She was like, oh yeah, like different people that knew me, and
Were you getting your Hillary
all-
wave down then?
Yeah,
that was it. I was practicing. Yeah.
Kim, you want to talk about the last night's flower moon?
Oh yeah,
It was who saw the moon last night?
Oh, it was
Raise your-
beautiful.
It was spectacular.
You didn't see the moon? It was
It
gorgeous.
was so
How
bright.
did I miss
It was.
It was
it's-
just enough mist, kind of like so
Yeah.
it made it
Yeah.
like it was one of those nights that if you got the silhouette of a cool tree that was just
what-
budding,
Uh-huh.
and you
That's
took the
what
photo
I was-
of the
that's what I
silhouette
was
of the
seeing. I
moon,
was so lucky.
then did
So,
you get any?
Yeah, I did. I got a lot. So first, because I was at Good Harbor Beach looking for it, and it was like, oh, this is such a bust. It's too cloudy. So then I drove down the back shore, and there it was coming up, and it was beautiful and pink. So then I drove all around Brace Cove, and I got beautiful flowers silhouetted in the flower
Oh,
moon.
flower
So
There you go.
there you
Perfect.
go.
All right, I know you have to leave early today, Kim.
Yeah, I
So
do.
what?
Yes,
Give us
I
the plover and What is this? What is a willet?
A willet is a
Is a willet like a plover?
Well,
So-
no,
similar?
it's a shorebird, but it's not like a plover. It's in a different family. It's in the same family as yellow legs. I posted. Well, I guess I haven't posted the yellow legs yet either, because we've had yellow legs there also. But willets actually breed in this area, and they're bigger than piping. They're like 4 or 5 times bigger than piping plovers. They're long-legged, beautiful brown, long black beaks. So look for them. I'm going to post some pictures so everybody can see what to look for. But there were 3 on Good Harbor Beach yesterday morning, along with 6 piping plovers, which they must have come in that night because a lot of birds fly at night. So I had been there late in the day with Charlotte, and there was just our usual piping plover family. So I think these 6 and the 3 willets came in that night. And I haven't been back to check to see if they stayed, but I think there might be willets breeding in or nesting in the salt marsh at Good Harbor Beach.
Oh.
I think last year was the first year we might have had a pair, so it would be very awesome if they were staying around, and we actually were getting a little willet colony there.
Speaking of ebbs and flows of animals that come in and going, we would talk about the coyote, the lack of coyotes
And
in the past, up until this past year. You know, every single day I would hear coyotes in my backyard
and see them like
and see them
really
often,
a lot.
and haven't. And we so Kim was saying that she heard, or have you seen or heard about a coyote that had walked around with
that was a
that
coyote.
was trapped.
Yeah, that.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it. It was going up Plum Street during the winter, a Saturday morning in the middle of the day, and I think it was Aaron Hutchings from Cape Ann Wildlife told me that he was trapped and lost his foot. He dragged the trap around for like 3 weeks and then lost his paw. So that's.
So I'm wondering. I'm wondering if there's been a kind of a silent campaign to thin the because I think that if it wasn't silent, I think that there would be a huge. You know how there's the big time number of coyote sympathizers. I'm wondering if there's a silent kind of movement to set a bunch of coyote traps and rid, or try to thin. But Paul Morrison's theory was that if you take out some of the coyotes, that they are mentally programmed to go into a hyper reproduction.
Well, I saw one Friday night. So.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I heard one.
The Atlantic Road coyotes are still going strong.
So wait a second. You said that, right? And that was the only. And we had just talked about this that before the podcast. That was the first time I had heard the coyotes was Friday night, in a long time.
Yeah.
Have you noticed a drop off in the amount
Well,
of?
I'm not.
You're
Well,
not
I don't really
listening
hear
for-
them where I am.
Oh, okay. Aren't you in East Gloucester?
Yeah, but I can't.
In past
haven't
years, you
heard
didn't hear
them.
them every night.
No.
Do you sleep with your windows open?
Sometimes, but I live in a condo. In the middle of the condo, I have 4
Oh.
windows,
Yeah.
Oh.
so I don't really. I mean,
I
we hear
hear 'em.
cars
I
street
would hear 'em
screeching,
every
but
night.
I've seen them, and I'll see them. I went to the Red Sox game on Friday night, driving up Atlantic Road, coyotes going right. And then in the mornings, I'll see them like 7 if I'm driving my mom to work. They cross Atlantic. And I know people have seen them on Beach, the lower end of Beach Road.
Well, in the past, I've seen them
Yeah.
all over East
Because
Gloucester. But
we
this
used to see
just this
them-
past year, I've seen them far
Yes, because
and heard them far
every
less.
garbage morning we would see them for scavenging garbage. I haven't seen that for a year.
Yeah. So I'm wondering.
Yeah.
I've seen garbage look like it was scavenged, but who knows?
Who knows?
Like I see it in the
Yeah,
morning.
that could be
That could be
a raccoon,
So
a dog.
so we've been keeping track of our fox sightings because when David actually has had the same experience as I have, that I hadn't all my time here. When I was a little kid, I might have seen a fox, here and there, but up until 2 years ago, I had not seen a fox on Cape Ann, mainly Gloucester. I'm mainly here in East Gloucester, but I hadn't seen a fox up until 2 years ago, and now in the past 4 months, I've seen three different fox
times.
sightings.
Yeah.
In two different locations.
We used to have a red fox. This was a while ago. Who would come into the condo parking lot, and we have like a shady area with trees at the end of the parking lot, and would come and like
That's where I saw
hang out there.
a couple of months ago. I saw a red fox going into Thorwald condos.
Yes.
That's where I saw
you
it.
serious?
Yes, I swear to God. Yeah,
thought you were
it's
joking.
crossing. No, it's crossing this. No, honestly,
Third world condos?
Thorwald.
Thorwald.
Oh, Thorwald.
Yeah, that's
Third
just-
world condos.
Thorwald condos.
So
Really? So we must have it because this was a while ago. I haven't seen
This
it.
was about 6 months ago. Remember, I mentioned
Yeah.
it to you
No,
guys.
this was years ago. Because I remember my aunt drove into the parking lot, and she's driving in the afternoon to see my grandmother. So my grandmother was alive, so it was a while ago, and she saw that. She literally stopped the car. She's like, "There's a fox." We're like, "Just be calm." And then one night we came home, and we had stuff to dump in the dumpster, which is on the lower section. And we pulled into the parking lot, and the lights flashed, and there's a red fox in front of us.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, and I'm like, we're all scared. We're like, well, we're in the car. He's out there. He's not gonna. And he started to come towards the car. We stopped the car, and then, needless to say, we didn't get out and
The
dump
ones
it.
I've
They're
seen
such
in East
beautiful
Gloucester,
creatures,
the three sightings that I've had in East Gloucester have all been red fox, and the one I saw in West Gloucester when I was driving my daughters back to actually was that Essex?
So they have.
It may have been Essex on the way back to Hamilton the other day. Was like a light
tan.
tan.
So we have red
And
fox
grapevine?
and gray fox, and in Massachusetts, and so it was probably a gray fox. Again, Erin Hutchings, she had that little litter of gray fox. They were gray fox kits. Those little. I posted a picture recently of her little gray fox kits. But I've only ever seen red fox in this area.
Yeah.
I think what happens is that they have more fox over in West Gloucester and in Essex historically because we get a lot of coyotes over here because they like to scavenge. There's a lot more garbage. It's more densely populated. Over in West Gloucester, it's less densely populated. So I think that's why they have historically had more fox and less coyotes, and vice versa here. But now I think we're getting some coyotes. I mean,
We
some
must
fox
have like
back,
a
which is so
long-term
awesome.
fox family over near us because it was a while ago. I saw the red, and you just saw it. And also bordering the golf course, there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff.
I think that must.
Well,
we have tons of rabbits.
When
at
I
the
saw
condo,
I
too.
watched that coyote documentary on PBS that time, they had mentioned that golf courses are absolute perfect habitat for coyotes.
Yeah.
So they said that railroad track, like the way that they think that a lot of coyotes migrated
eastward. Right.
Eastward was
Yeah.
following railroad tracks, and then
That's so
and then
awesome.
golf courses have ponds.
So coyotes, they're golfers? Is that what you're saying? They like a good golf course?
Well, also, the condos, not on my side where I live, we're a little more exposed, but the other side of the condos with the 4 buildings, there are rabbits.
That's the big
rabbits.
thing.
Galore.
Rabbits are
That's it.
unbelievable.
That's a golf course. The lawn is
Foxes.
really short. If there's a rabbit going, you can see it
You can
right
see
away.
it.
Oh, rabbits.
A lot of cool
bananas.
things happen on railroad tracks. Like you can find a lot of rare wildflowers on railroad tracks because they still maintain them. They like mow them and stuff like that. So where areas around it are getting forested. But the railroad tracks, you can find like rare and amazing wildflowers because it's still maintained as like mowing and stuff like that. But the wildflowers still come up from like 100 years ago. People find really amazing.
Wouldn't that be
things.
a cool idea to get some random, those packets that you get with the wildflower
yeah.
seeds,
Yeah,
and take the train with the window open, just kind of like go
Yeah.
across
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
way, and see, and then
Yeah.
year after year, see how it goes.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Cool, right?
Yeah, that would be very cool.
Let's see what we have here. Pat's all dolled up for
Yeah.
First Holy Communion today,
Yeah, later today. Well, later this morning. Yeah.
and
My first trip to Our Lady of Good Voyage
Voyage.
Church,
Oh,
so I'm excited to get inside there and see.
Yeah, it's
Our Lady's
beautiful.
my favorite local church.
It's beautiful.
Because I
Very
was
excited.
we
I
we
wonder
kind
why.
of we left what.
It looks like the inside of a boat, right?
Well, is that what it is? That
Yeah.
is that how they design? I don't know, but the reason I liked it was we were always we were members of St. Peter's Church here, and it's got converted into condos.
Yeah.
And I was an altar boy, so East Gloucester School, St. Peter's Church, and St. Anthony's, was part of the same parish over by Niles Beach. Have you been? Do you know anybody that has gone into St. Anthony's since it's been shut down?
Is it shut down?
It's shut down. Doesn't it open in the summertime?
Do they still have masses there?
Well, they
I
have
thought-
weddings. I know they have weddings.
They
there.
do have one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
they do have
I've gone
weddings
to a
there.
wedding there.
Recently?
No, I mean, no.
I
not
wonder
in
who
the
took it
past
over.
2
I wonder if they're
years.
part of the Holy Family.
But I thought it was open for services in the summer. You know what?
Maybe I'm not looking up.
The Turners would know.
I don't want to talk out of our ass, so let's try to find it.
I
But
think
I was
that
an
shit
altar
might have
boy, and you know we were talking about so I was an altar boy in the '70s. It was a very dangerous time to be an altar boy.
You survived.
I survived. Luckily, I never had any bad
Experiences.
I mean, thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
Um,
right.
But I was mainly an altar boy for the tips when you do the weddings. You used to get nice tips. So that's
the first I've ever heard that. I didn't know that.
In it for the money.
I learned about Our Lady of Good Voyage because when that statue on the top had to be repaired, I was working for a studio in Boston called Cassieri and Divacari. And that statue came down to our studio, and we had to it was the wooden one.
Right.
We had to rework the whole bottom because it was all rotted out. Then what we did was we made a cast of it, and from the cast we made a mold, and then we made a cast, and then we made a fiberglass resin cast.
So the one that's there now is fiberglass.
The one that's there now is
The one in the
fiberglass.
museum is the
It's the
original
original
wood
carved wood one.
oh wow, that's
So-
interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how I got introduced to Gloucester.
Okay.
I knew nothing about Gloucester, and then all of a
really?
sudden this thing, where'd this come from?
Wow.
Well, we've got to do repair work on it and stuff like that. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
from
interesting.
where?
Amazing.
Gloucester. Oh, okay.
What goes around comes around.
Right, that's
So
amazing.
but we left St. Peter's and went to Our Lady's because Father Alves was just giving
Father
in-
Alves was
incredible sermons.
He's an amazing.
And I was young. I was a teenager, but I would actually enjoy going to church because his sermons were
He was very
interesting enough and relatable enough that I felt like I left there getting something. It wasn't some
Right.
monotone guy. He was
Right.
like animated, and he
Yeah.
had gave these sermons that made sense, and now I
They
understand
must have been
what I'm
impressive.
doing.
It captured a young teenage boy attention because
As much as you could, but I mean, I was like, this is
Right.
this is
But
good,
it's relevant.
and it was always so bright in there and
Yeah.
well maintained. That Father Alves was a special,
special.
compared to all the priests that
I think, and we also had Father Bullock, and he was really special too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I'm reading
sorry.
this from Wicked Local. St. Anne's Church closing in November. 4 other churches to see leadership changes. Did St.
Anne's?
No, this has to be someplace else. Oh, what a dummy. This,
That's different
I
steeples
just
there.
texted Kathy
Joey.
Turner because Jim, the Turners used to go every Sunday over to St. Anthony's and then breakfast at the Atlantis, and anybody who went to church got a free breakfast on Jim.
Really?
Yeah.
Aw.
Well, I don't think like strangers,
Oh, so
but
sweet.
Oh, Father Matthew Green, former Good Morning. Well, he's
Yeah.
not Father Matthew Green anymore. He's just Matthew Green. But I asked him that question the other day. It was,
Right.
In 2013, he did a post for Good Morning Gloucester about St. Anthony's by the Sea. It says, "This lovely little chapel of St. Anthony by the Sea belongs to the Holy Family Parish. It is open for Sunday services at 9:30 a.m. only in the summer and for weddings until fall. I think the stained glass windows are absolutely beautiful, real works of art." Oh wow, he took some nice photos. I'll
That's
link to
beautiful.
this post from Matthew Green.
Where is he now?
Oh, and
He was here
Fred
for a while.
Bowden, our pal Fred Bowden, God bless his soul, did a post about the history of St. Anthony's.
Oh,
so I'm going to link to
repost
this.
that one.
So definitely check this out.
That looks great.
Yeah, oh, this is great. I'm glad I checked it out.
And we have to thank Fred Bowden too for history too, because he loved those photos.
Where am I
Yeah.
here? Oh goodness, where am I? I don't want to. What was the topic we were talking
You were
about?
talking about being an altar boy.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But St. Anthony's still
that,
open.
Right before that, we were talking
Just-
about
okay.
Our Lady of Good Voyage.
And I had not heard the bit about tips either until I shared this with Joey before the podcast, until I was introduced to a comedian called Sebastian Maniscalco. I think I'm close on his name. And he's an Italian family. I believe they grew up in the Chicago area, and he has a whole riff about being an altar boy and going for the tips. He would leave school to go do funerals so that he could get the tips.
That was my gig.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So now it's been verified.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's definitely a thing. Are you leaving? Okay. Okay, come. Thanks for coming.
Okay.
Say hi to Charlotte.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Have a good fun day.
Yeah.
We
Sunday's
will.
Fun day. Okay.
Thanks for
Yeah.
coming.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Have a nice
Bye.
day.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye. Okay. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Oh,
See you guys.
wait,
Bye.
kept this.
You want a kiss too?
Oh!
See the save? Did you see
That's
the
a little
save?
janky.
Wow.
Did I say it
Define-
right?
Nice, perfect.
Define janky. There you go.
Thank
Right there.
Oh,
Define
you guys
janky.
used the word.
I
Yeah,
saved it. I
exactly.
saved the whole podcast right there. I just saved it. It
Is
almost
that
went
the air
wrong.
pressure from the door tip that over?
That was Kim. She did it on purpose.
Is that the same little mic you've had for years? That little.
You know,
Or
I've gone
changed-
back and forth with different mics, but this little mic, it looks like it's nothing, right?
Right.
But you hear the podcast week in and week
Yeah.
out. Doesn't it sound great?
Yeah.
Sounds great.
I could spend $1,000 and have a
Right.
professional studio and maybe get 10% better
Right. And
results,
This is doing a great job.
or I could just have this simple little portable microphone and
I got one of those based on your recommendation. I think it's a good little mic. I
Do you-
follow you. Any of your tech stuff, I follow what you're doing. So
Yeah.
well,
Yes, I
are you
follow
familiar
that
with
stuff,
what
too.
the latest tech thing is?
no, I haven't seen. What's the latest?
The latest is I've had this phone. I've had
I was busy
this,
moving.
this last
Again.
Android phone, LG V20. It's 3 years old now, and it's getting very, very buggy. And it's not playing well with text messaging with iPhone people.
Oh.
And I'm getting crazy. It's just I don't want. I'm not going to bore you everybody with the details, but anyway,
You're going
I've
to
decided to
iPhone?
go to iPhone.
Oh.
there you go. Another convert.
And here's the thing.
Bring your checkbook. And
Yeah.
all your money.
I get that, right? Here's the thing. When I get it, I am going to do comprehensive reviews
Right.
of pros and cons from each platform,
That's a good
because I
idea.
feel like the people that have had Apple phones forever are just can't give a
You're correct. You don't have
what
to
is it,
say
an unbiased review
Right.
of the pros and cons, because I do feel that the Android operating system, there are benefits to it, but I believe that and Paul Morrison made this point, so I'm going to credit him with what I think is an accurate statement, and I'm basing also this statement off of my use with my iPads.
It's going to be a big statement.
Yeah,
Wow.
awesome.
Build
So,
up.
yeah, well, here's the thing. I have an iPad that is 7 years old that works nearly as well as the iPad that I purchased
That you just got.
last year.
Wow.
Now, Android builds an operating system, but each phone manufacturer puts their own hardware to it. And as such, every couple of years, there are 29 different versions of Android out there that there are hiccups.
Right.
Apple, I believe, and it has been the case with my iPad, you can have a 5-year-old iPad
Yeah.
or a brand new iPad. They're running the same exact operating system.
Well, and part of it is that Apple does both the hardware development and the software development, and that's the only case in the computer industry that happens.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
a
that makes
huge
sense.
thing.
Yeah,
that's a
makes sense.
huge
That's
thing.
huge.
It really is, and I think it's gotten to a point for me where what I perceived to be the benefits of Android, which, you know, the different things that you could do and stretch what you could do with it, are now actually becoming a hindrance. And the way that the Apple ecosystem is more walled in and more restrictive in a lot of ways is providing a much smoother
Right.
user experience.
Right.
So I'm at the point now where the idiosyncratic little ticks and bugs are becoming too big of a nuisance to me
Yeah.
to deal
Yeah.
with. And it's a shame because I do like the phones. They're
The
a lot
only-
cheaper.
The only issue with Apple is the price of them. So what I do is I buy usually from like the refurbished store, or like this is an iPhone 7. I bought this when they came out with the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10 at about the same time. So I knew they were going to start to dump all the other phones because they had to get them off the
Right,
market.
right, yeah.
So
Yeah,
I got
you can-
I got a phone here. I went to the store and I said maybe I should switch up. I had an iPhone 5. Maybe I should switch up to the 7, given that this is taking place. I went and I got the guy told me, he said, you know what? The iPhone with the greatest amount of memory, I think it was 256 gigs or something like that, and all the bells and that's the cheapest one right now because they probably have a lot of those. So he says I can give you the one with the lower, because usually I go for the lower amount because it's a cheaper phone.
Yeah.
He said the most expensive one with the highest memory is now the cheapest phone. He
Yeah.
said I'm thinking of buying one. So that's the way you work with Apple. Is just wait till a new generation comes out and then just pick up. Plus, in the reconditioned store, which I've bought everything through, there are some techie guys that they always have to have the latest edition of everything. So they're always unloading stuff. Like I have a flash drive and all this sort of stuff. I would have never bought that. But it was there. It had been reconditioned because there was something new on the market, and somebody would have held on to that for years. But the new tech heads are flipping stuff all the time. So the reconditioned store is a good place if you're thinking of Apple.
Yeah, I think that's a problem. I'm going to look into that. So I have Sprint, so I don't know how it works as far as having to buy it through a Sprint store or not.
I buy my phone at Best Buy, and then you can get any service you
Yeah.
want.
Oh,
You
really?
can-
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
you
doesn't
can-
matter?
Yeah, doesn't matter. If you want to switch, you can do it. And they have the machine that takes everything from one phone to the other.
Oh, so that was a question that was a big thing for me because I have
Oh, transferring data.
namely my number one thing is my contacts is
Right.
just an absolutely enormous.
They do. I left there with a working phone with all my contacts, all my photos.
At Best Buy?
Yeah, but is it
Yeah.
going to go from Android to iPhone?
Oh, I don't know about that. That
Yeah,
would
I
be
have to
because
figure
I
it
went
out.
from a 5
I don't care
to
about
a
my
7.
I don't care about my photos transferring over because I have I have 128 gigabytes on this phone, my current Android phone, and I don't want all those photos on the new one. And I use Google Photos to back every photo I take and video gets backed up to Google Photos anyway, so I can access it through Google Photos on an iPhone
Right.
without having to have that storage taken up
Yeah.
on the new phone.
But
Yeah.
if you have in the Apple world, if you have a laptop and you have a phone, you back up your phone onto your laptop all the time. So it's the whole thing is right
Yeah,
there.
I don't have I use Windows.
all
PC,
integrated.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the latest on that. So look for my. It'll be probably a 3 or 4 part series of how my
We'll see how we
how my
learn.
adventure.
I am
how
sure
my
it
Well,
will
that would
be-
be interesting.
I'm sure it will be comprehensive.
Oh, it will be. I'll talk. I'm sure. So because so many people they're just. The ones that have had iPhones forever, they're like, yeah, it's the best. I'm like,
But they
okay,
have
but you're not
anything to
comparing.
compare
Like,
it
tell
to.
me what the Android
Yeah.
did wrong or right. I like to. If someone doesn't have anything, it's just like politics, right? The right and the left. Like the person that can't find one good thing about the other side. You know that they've drank all of the Kool-Aid and they can't think for themselves. They just whatever that faction says they're supposed to say, that's what's coming down. I'd like to take each thing and boil it down for myself. Anyway, moving on. Did I say that the Rudder is opening this
No, you
this
didn't
coming week?
say that yet.
Good.
Thursday or Friday this week. Look for the Rudder to be open.
Oh, good.
I wouldn't be surprised to see if they have their. Okay, so people always talk about how the studio does the half price stuff, and people say, oh well, it's
good
always
deal.
half price. It isn't always half price
right.
because I noticed yesterday they went to just half price on their appetizers. And as the summer moves on, when we start to get all the tourists here and there's a ton of customers there, they will eventually do away with the half price menu.
Oh, yeah.
Or a half price app. Sometimes they
And
do
next
half price
weekend's Memorial
sushi.
Day, so that's the start. The typical start off.
So it does pay to look and see what it is, and you're crazy not to take advantage of it right now
Yeah.
Well, that's
because
how,
it's gonna go away.
That's how Dennis greases the wheel over there to get people back over there for the
Right.
start of the season. You know,
And to keep the help.
right.
Because
That's true.
it's
Yes,
hot,
yes, I
you
agree.
gotta keep the help
100%.
going. You
Yeah.
know, even
Yeah.
it's it doesn't necessarily have to make a ton of money, but get a staff trained and ready to go.
Oh yeah,
Because when all the summer places open, they poach a lot of the help from the year-round businesses.
Yeah. Well, and there are some places that have the same people that work.
Yeah, like Lobsterland,
Well-
like the same people year
Oh,
round.
have you?
Dennis has told me he's had some great weekends over there. So
Yeah. Oh yeah, we were there. It was raining.
he's a nice
out. It was-
guy.
He is.
Yeah.
It was raining out Friday night. Was it Friday night or Saturday night? Friday night. Yesterday was Saturday night. Friday night we went there and I had a little surprise thing for Kate, and it was mobbed and it was raining out
right.
Yeah.
because they had the half price thing.
And
So
you-
Friday night you
And you
went
got to get out of the house at some point.
Friday night you went to the studios. Saturday night you went to dinner where?
Danvers.
To Alto Forno for
Altoforno.
Kate's sister's birthday.
How was that?
Fabulous. I mean, it was the first time we had been there.
Where are we all going out to dinner for tonight?
Tonight is I need sleep.
Oh, you do?
I've only had 3 or 4 hours sleep for the last 3 nights in a row.
Yeah.
And tonight's Game of Thrones, so I don't know how I have to.
People are not aware at all of your work pace. Most people couldn't do what you do.
Well,
You burn the candle at both ends.
yeah,
You do.
I do. But this time of year is a lot less, like throughout the course of the day.
Right.
In another month or so, I throughout that day, starting at 3:30 in the morning, I rarely sit down.
Right.
So I heard people. I hope people heard that you start at 3:30 in the morning.
I get up at 3:30. I get to work at 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
To unload the bait, right?
To actually
think
load
about it.
load the bait.
To load the bait.
Yeah. But yeah, it's it's funny. So I take my clumps of vacation time comes in the spring because that's when I can get away, and I can basically do nothing from here on out. And people are like, oh, when someone says to you, this is going to be truthful, you're going to find in your life. When someone says to you, must be nice, that person is not your friend.
Right.
They're not rooting for you. They're rooting against you. When someone says must be nice, they do not want to see you have a good time. They're not trying to lift you up. They're trying to take you apart.
Must be nice. I'm not following.
No,
No, take all these vacations.
You went to the Bruins game last night. Must be nice.
Oh, it must be nice. Oh, okay.
Must be nice.
Oh, sarcastically, you're saying.
Yeah.
Or
wishfully sometimes.
Like, look at you. All you do is go out. Must be nice to be you and go out.
Must be nice.
Yeah.
When someone says must be nice, they're not. They may seem like they call you a friend or something, but they're not. Right. They're not someone that.
I see you at the Bruins game. I'm like, how's he gonna get up tomorrow morning?
I know.
Or he must not have to go in tomorrow. Or
you know what? You know where all that stems from? My father getting Alzheimer's at a young age.
Oh, good for you.
Me going to France with Kate and taking her on that trip and stuff like that. It all stems from my father. The 10 years before the Alzheimer's really got bad, him telling my mother he was going to take her to Sicily, to the old country, to see where all their people were from. And he told her for 10 years he was going to take her, and he didn't take her, and then he got sick, and they never went. And that's not gonna happen to me.
Yeah, I have a very similar story. Yeah.
My grandfather once. My grandparents were in the Bronx in New York, and we used to go there. I used to love to go visit with my grandparents. I mean, they spoiled us, but the whole atmosphere of the city and stuff like that was all part of visiting my grandparents. Yeah. Okay, so one time my grandfather took me. He said, "Come upstairs." Okay, so we came upstairs, and he opens up his closet door. In his closet door, there's literally must be 50 pairs of shoes there. He says, "You see all those pairs of shoes there?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I have all these pairs of shoes, but I don't have the energy to go anyplace anymore," he said.
Oh, wow.
He said, "I want you to remember that when you have the money to go travel, okay, because all you're going to end up with is a lot of pair of shoes and not be able to go anyplace."
How old were you at that time, do you think?
I was like in junior high school or something like that. And so the minute when he passed away, we got a little bit of an inheritance from him. The first thing I did in his honor was I went to Europe. Because that's what he would have wanted me to do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But I remember looking, it was the way he phrased it and placed it and put me in front of all his shoes that really made it an anchor point inside me. I still can kind of see the closet with all the shoes. And he said, "You see, I don't have the energy to go anyplace anymore. When you're young," he says, "travel. Go do the things you want to do."
I'm picturing the day that he looked at those shoes himself and realized, I don't know why these shoes are here. I don't have the energy to wear them anywhere. You know, the day that he came to that realization that he shared with you.
I always think to myself, like on my deathbed, am I going to regret going to that Bruins game?
Nope.
Am I going to regret that trip to Paris, France?
Or
am I going to regret all those days waking up at 3:30 in the morning, the sacrifices? But then you have to obviously you have to have balance.
You have to balance and you have to work.
Balance. You have to work just so that you can do things too. You know,
right?
Yeah.
Balance is nice. I mean, when you have a seasonal business, it's a different situation. I don't recommend them to people. I recommend government jobs. That's what I recommend, with great pensions. Right? That's what I recommend.
Listen, life is short.
Yeah.
Life is short. We lose sight of that sometimes, but it's like it's the biggest reality.
We should let Heidi share her news here.
Yeah. Well, okay. You want to sit over here?
No. I just knew we were getting close to the time you usually. Sorry.
That's okay. You want the headphones?
That's all right.
I do not.
I'm just joking.
Hey,
I'm joking.
I know it's tough.
Have you talked about no more weekday breakfast at Lobsterland?
No,
Oh,
we have not
is that a
talked
thing?
about that.
No more weekday.
No more breakfast. No.
Really? That's
He does
interesting.
brunch on weekends. I think it starts at 9.
Wow.
With like a breakfast menu and some other things, but no more. My mom and I drove over there last week. You know, we had like an early morning appointment. She had a doctor's appointment. And we always go to we can't wait till April, May when they open. No cars. We were like, well, gee, this is good. We'll get a seat.
Yeah.
Literally, then we looked in. My mom walked up, looked inside, and it said no breakfast.
Oh my God.
I know. Not that there aren't amazing other breakfast places in
But
Gloucester,
that's your spot.
and there's a lot of places to go. But I really love.
Well, is
Corey's
that just
omelets
the
and-
time of the year? Is it? You
No,
think they're gonna have it?
no,
They're gonna
no
stop
more
it?
breakfast.
Or
Yeah.
something about health or something.
No,
like that.
it's just Saturday and Sunday.
They're
I
doing
mean,
breakfast
think about
Saturday
it.
and
How
Sunday.
many restaurants do breakfast, lunch, and dinner? That's a
lot.
That's a lot, So I can understand it, but gosh, it's
We're
very
sorry for your
depressing.
loss.
I know. All the other meals are good. We go to but I just loved going to breakfast there, and there are a lot of other good breakfast places, so that's good. And Joey, what do you think about the Improper Bostonian?
Is it going down?
Shut down.
Oh, my friend Wendy.
Yeah, but I think she sent a really nice. I'll just see if I have it. I'll forward it to you. She sent a very nice, this has been a family business, and literally they just closed.
Wow.
A letter came out, and that was it. And
Well, I mean
yeah.
that's it's probably a symptom of the internet, right? I mean, and paper publications.
Yeah.
I mean, the nice thing was it was such a nice magazine, and it was such a.
It was unique.
It was unique.
The Improper was around when I was in college, I guess.
It was
or
her brother,
just
right?
after, right? Yeah, it was her
Yeah.
brother, but
Yeah.
Wendy was involved.
Yeah.
And there's some other people that I was friends with, back in that. So back in my
I've heard
days.
stories. I know these stories.
Yeah. No, I know. Back in my 20s, yeah, the birth of the Improper Bostonian coincided, and the people that it was speaking to, and the advertisers, and the people behind the scenes were aligned with my group of friends running around in Back Bay and Boston,
Right.
back in that time period in the 90s. It was early 90s. And as a matter of fact, June 1st is my first day off when my cousin comes back, and so it's my first day off, and then out of the next 2 weeks, and a bunch of those people that ran around in Boston with Rob Myrak, Derek Small, Brian Pitcher, the Rabbit. Rabbit was part of that crew. You guys know the Rabbit
You've known him for a long time.
Yeah, I've known him for a long. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
That's good. Have you made fun of him for a long time?
Everybody, yeah,
Probably since the beginning.
that's kind of his thing. But it spoke to young single hip people back then, and
Well, it did a really good job of really finding the niche of young Boston.
Totally.
What they
Wow.
want. They were really careful with the people they interviewed. Everything was very targeted, and it was sexy. It was like a sexy.
It absolutely
It was an underground newspaper, basically.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, it's kind of filled that definition.
But it was mainstream places. But you knew.
It was
But if you were in the Improper, it was literally it was the stamp of. This is cool for
Young,
us.
hip
Let's
Boston.
go there.
Yeah.
The Rattlesnake. All
Yeah.
these places that were not Kim and Tom who lived in the Back Bay
Yeah.
like a generation before. It was more like the Rat and a different kind of Boston than my Boston.
Right. Well, when
and
he was
stuff
a
like that.
musician.
Yeah, he was a
it's
musician.
different
Yeah,
kind of,
totally.
But you were more Newbury Street or
Right.
Swansea.
Oh my God! I dated I met a girl that was a bartender at Swansea. I dated her. She did the decorating at my condo on the back shore. She was a bartender at Swansea, and her sisters were very artistic. They had a loft in what was is it the Leather District? It was near the
South Station.
South Station.
Yeah.
And her and her two sisters were very artistic. They had that industrial kind of hip kind of thing, and they decorated my condo on the back shore. Debbie something or other.
What year was this?
Huh?
What year was this?
Well, I probably started we weren't really boyfriend and girlfriend, but we were seeing each other probably. It was like the year before I got married. The year before I met my wife, because I met my wife the end of the summer. So it probably took like a half a year to decorate that place, and I wouldn't sleep with this girl because I had hired her to. But prior to that, we would like booty calls and stuff like that. But like once I hired her to decorate my place, it was like, okay, this has to be a professional relationship. When she started decorating my house, and I met my ex-wife at the end of that summer, and my place had been decorated already.
Right.
Oh, good thing you got it decorated.
Yeah, for the yeah.
That poor bartender at Swansea did. I hope you paid her well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she was disappointed that
she
I
finished it. She
her.
thought she was going to be like hanging there, and then
That's right. She was decorating her nest.
Yeah.
I let her. So she's this
nest
young
talk
hip
today.
girl and stuff like that, and I let her I was working every day, and while she was decorating, I'd let her sleep. Not in my bed. I let her stay there because in summer in Gloucester, she'd be able to go to Good Harbor and stuff like that. So it was a nice gig for her. But
oh yeah, sure. I hope you paid her well. That's all I can say.
I don't think we have the whole story.
no, I mean she knew the gig. I mean I was in the early '90s. Mm-hmm. There was the girls that I dated. There was no. There was no. It was up front. Like I'm not in no relationship right here. This is if you want to come hang out and have a good time, we'll have a good time. But I'm not. I was not up for. Until I met my first wife, I never thought I was gonna get married.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then she kind of knocked me off my feet. And then,
but yeah, it's sad to see the improper go. It's and they had Wendy was great, and they had a really nice staff. And
how did I get on that subject? Jesus Christ, we
don't
just
know.
went 10 minutes.
Where did that go?
Joey's
subject.
life in Boston, hanging with the improper crowd.
Those are good times.
You have to know the improper. Like they had they had parties at all like the hippest bars. They had a whole page. They have a whole page of parties in the
improper.
The improper, but so like if they, like I said, if they put their stamp on something, it was a hip place to be, like the Vox and and so Wendy, like hanging out with Wendy and that crew, like there was never a line for us. There could be a line, 100 people long. You're with Wendy,
you got in.
just like all the doors open. Yeah, good times.
God.
I love my life right now, though. I really do love.
Well, you go through phases. That was fun. You wouldn't want to go back to that right now.
No, hell no. No, honestly, I am.
But you go through that to get to here, to know you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't change anything in my life. Everything got me to where I am right now, living at my awesome little place in East Gloucester, close to the beach and being here and having Kate and my kids being awesome. Everything's good. Everything's great. Ham and Castle, by the time this comes out, no, because the podcast goes out at 8 o'clock. So if you listen to this right away at 8 o'clock, then you'll know that there's a Game of Thrones live viewing party.
Oh, really?
The final
really cool.
show.
Oh, that sounds
Ham and Castle, yeah.
Wow.
What a great
That's
idea.
big. That
Fabulous
is a good
idea, right? Yeah. So that's today. Who here watches Game of Thrones? None of you?
I do now.
I watched the first season.
This season I'm watching.
I watched the first season.
Thanks to my son.
Wait a second. You telling me you started on the last season? You didn't
Yes.
start from the beginning?
Yes. My son got me. He gets me on all the classics. I told you, like Sons of Anarchy, so ask me anything. But which
I
is
like
a
Sunday.
show
Why don't you
that you
start
would
at
be
the
sure that I would watch. But he got me started on Game of Thrones this season. Yeah.
Wow.
I
did go
watched
back
the
and-
first season. I enjoyed it. I don't have HBO.
We
so
did go back and
it's
watch.
such a big thing.
You could rent it. Honestly,
They have
HBO's
all
like $10 or $15 a month. It would be worth it to rent to have it for a month and just binge watch
Yeah.
the whole season.
That's the whole problem right there is binge watching.
Well, there was
Because
a
I start these series and then all of a sudden, the cliffhangers, the way they end it, they snag you to go into that.
Yes.
So you'll be watching it for a while and then you'll go to sleep and then you wake up at 3:30 or 4. I wonder what's going to happen.
Dave,
And
do you have Amazon Prime?
No.
Okay.
No.
There's
What?
a show. There's a show that's on Amazon.
What's that?
That's a binge watching
It's really
show?
it's a guy show.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
okay.
Okay, you tell me.
It's a great Banshee.
Oh, okay.
If anyone has
Banshee.
have you seen it? Have you seen Banshee?
Wait a minute. Is it the one that was on Cinemax?
I think so.
With the guy who's in prison?
Yes.
And oh my god, I watched the whole thing. I love it. It's not a guy show.
No.
It's awesome.
It is
What is
fucking
it? The
awesome.
opposite of...
Did you watch the whole thing?
No. I'm like 5 episodes in.
Has his
Stop!
buddy?
Don't fucking do not.
But has
Do
his,
fucking
has his
not.
buddy come to town? The Asian guy?
Yeah, he just showed up.
But
Yeah,
what-
the
what
guy
is-
that was a cross-dresser.
What is
Yes.
this? That the male version of Orange is the New Black?
No.
Well, he's not in jail
No,
anymore.
no.
He's
Okay.
he has flashbacks.
I love it. It used to be on Cinemax.
Well, okay, yeah.
And I watched the whole
Oh
thing.
my god, yeah.
It's great, isn't
It's
it?
great, yeah.
And he lives above the bar.
Please, I don't want any spoilers.
But you know that. He moves there.
I know. I'm really enjoying the series.
It's so good. His ex-wife.
She's hot.
She is. She's hot. Did you ever watch Californication?
She reminds me of Kate. She's got an athletic build like Kate.
Did you ever watch Californication?
No.
David Duchovny?
No.
That's a good one. It's not like Banshee. It's a comedy. But
I might check it out.
but David Duchovny is just
He's
like...
good, yeah.
It's
Well,
good. It's
X-Files,
funny.
X-Files.
I got to get
Yeah,
through.
watch that.
So I have to get through Banshee now. So that's where I'm at.
I think you and I are the only people in the world who
No,
watch Banshee.
no.
I
Like
never-
Chris McCarthy and Mickey LaFada and this guy Steve Reed that we hanging out. They're the ones who said, and they were. So the reason I say it's a guy thing is like they got to. I mean, would you agree that there's a lot of gratuitous like scenes in there?
Yeah, but I mean,
There's more sex than in Game of Thrones.
that's I
didn't
loved
faze
it.
you. Oh,
It
I'm
didn't
glad
faze
you-
me. I love.
Well, the guy's a good, like, handsome guy.
That's
so.
super hot.
Yeah, the guy's super hot. Okay, so
Yeah.
so it actually isn't just for guys. So there's sexy women and a hot guy that are every episode he's fucking somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so good. Yeah.
Don't fuck it up for me. Thank you.
What season are you on?
Season 1. I'm only 5
Oh,
episodes in.
Jesus Christ!
That's just what I'm saying. I'm only 5 episodes in.
It's so
I'm
good.
busy.
Billions is good too. Do you watch Billions?
You know something? I watched Billions, and I watched the first season, and then the second season, I feel like it just kind of went. It was going kind of sideways, and speaking sideways, that Paul Giamatti started sideways. But they were doing a lot with the legal part. It was just kind of. I should have stuck with it, but
It's good. I like the second. I like the second season. I watch it when it's a free preview, whatever. So I watched the first 2 seasons, and then this past one I caught up with the third, and this one, and it's good. And now he and
Stop! I don't know, so I don't fuck it up. What are we doing
but it's
here?
good now.
Okay,
it's good.
I'll
And
go
the
back.
girl from Sons of Anarchy is in it.
Oh, okay. The wife?
Jackson's
Oh.
wife is in
Okay.
it, and she's great.
Can we not fuck this up for me?
Everybody knows Maggie Siff is in it.
Okay, just stop. Okay, just stop.
I'm a news
Killing
junkie.
Eve
I
is the
don't-
one
I
you
don't
should
have-
watch.
I am.
I'm a
See,
news
Dave.
junkie.
Dave and I may be as polar opposite as 2 people can be. I refuse to watch the news because I
Killing
don't wanna
Eve
get
you should
sucked
watch
into
too.
it.
Have you started
No,
that?
the
Okay,
news-
stop giving me things
the
because I have to
news-
focus on one thing at
The
a time.
news is the greatest show going on right now.
No, it isn't. No,
It
it
is.
It's
It is.
negativity.
No, the
It's-
problem is you're one of the actors in it, so everybody's
Oh,
playing
boy.
their part.
No thanks. No thanks. Okay, so Pat had you had a failed visit to Castle Hill.
I did. There was an open house event there yesterday, and I thought all the events that were going on downtown, thought there'd be a lot of good coverage among the GMG contributors and everything. And I thought to myself, well, I'm going to go out to Castle Hill and see what's going on out there. And it was a free event, so I should have expected the very large crowds that were there. And they were trying, the poor guy, he was trying to park me in like parking lot 6 out in a field somewhere. And he's trying to steer me in, and I thought, all of a sudden it came to me, I'm not going to be able to get out of this spot.
Yeah.
And I'm done. I said to him, I'm sorry, I'm done. I'm going home. I'm sorry. And he goes, he says, are you handicapped? We can get you closer. I said, no, I'm not handicapped. I said, I just can't do it. There was just so many people. So it was good that they got a great turnout, and it was a beautiful day. Yes, but I failed in the coverage for the blog. I did fail in that ride.
Wasn't there something
Gotta
that was
go with
happening
your
in
instincts,
Rockport?
though.
There was the motif yesterday.
Yeah.
There was motif number 1 day.
Yeah.
There was the boating safety day. That if you
Right.
weren't aware of why the helicopter was in the harbor yesterday, they were doing rescue trainings and rescue so the kids could see it, and flare training.
Right.
And they had the Maritime Gloucester. Michael DeCosta was in here talking about they opened up that to support this training day on Harbor Loop. There was a ton of stuff happening.
It's just lots and lots going on.
That
so
helicopter
I
at the
went out of
training
town.
was like sitting 30 feet off of the water.
That looked amazing. I was imagining
I
standing
heard a
there
helicopter and I said, what's going on here? I didn't going around. I'm looking
you
in the
must have
sky. That's where you find a helicopter.
Right.
You know what
look
I mean?
up. Yeah, you look up.
And then all of a sudden I'm looking around. I keep hearing it. It's loud. I said, why? I can't. Is it behind a cloud or something like that? So finally I went down and I went up the hill and I saw some activity happening in the harbor over there. Then I thought it was like an actual rescue mission. You know what I mean? I thought something was actually happening.
Of course you would, right.
Or I thought it was like a wicked tuna helicopter or something like that, but it wouldn't
that
just
would
sit
be
there.
the other thing.
I mean, it literally sat in the same place for probably 45 minutes to an hour as they were doing the trainings. Those guys just hovered right there.
Wow.
So I went down to the paint factory, and you got a perfect view of it. And so
that was a good idea. I didn't think of that.
it was
I
interesting
remember
to
that
watch.
next time. Yeah.
It was interesting to watch.
All
these
and
different
so I don't know if I haven't checked the blog this morning to see if anybody captured any of those things. I just assumed we were going to have multiple people covering.
I did. That's the assumption I made.
Yeah.
And the
You
gardeners
should have
were
in the
having
blog the iPhone video of the day. Let people send in there if they have a video.
Well, people
like
can
that.
always send in stuff.
Yeah.
People do send stuff
okay.
in. What else do we have here?
I have wood carving classes.
Yeah, Kim's been posting them for you.
Yeah,
Been
I
very nice.
appreciate it.
When are the when's the next one?
Next one's actually coming up this week. It's a Wednesday. I have a 5-day coming up this Wednesday through Sunday, and then I have a 2-day. I have a spoon making class.
Yeah, I'm gonna come make a spoon.
Spoon making class is fun because I have the spoon makers in with the guys that are doing the 5-day classes, so they get to see what other
Nice.
people have been there for a while. So I used to have all my classes separate. Now I kind of put them together a little bit
That's a
so
good
everybody
idea.
can see what the other
I
person's
like
doing.
that. Yeah.
So so this.
I'm gonna go make a spoon. I need something to whack Jim with.
Well, the thing is, so I used to do like a technique class. People would say they'd want a 1-day carving class. I said, okay, I can teach you some stuff. And they'd walk home with nothing, okay? Then all of a sudden it occurred to me, I can teach them the same things around making a spoon that's going to be a lot of fun. They're going to bring it home as a talking piece. They're going to be stirring their spaghetti that night with it.
Yeah.
And I said,
Constantly, it's almost like advertising.
That's right.
Perpetual advertising.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I know there's something about wooden spoons.
They're coming back.
My mother,
Way back.
that was my mother's weapon of choice to
Give
she
you
was
a
going to
whack?
whack us with a wooden spoon.
way back over where Cake Ann is and the Common Crow. I think it's a pet place now. Used to be a kitchen store. It was a restaurant for a while, and it was like a kitchen store. And I bought a wooden spoon in there, and it's my favorite. And I remember that place every time I use that spoon.
Interesting.
And there's just something about. And then I have another wooden tool that I got someplace else, and I think of those things every time I use them.
Well, there have been gallery showings of just carved spoons now.
Really?
You'd never think that. I have a book at my shop.
Isn't
that's
that
just
interesting?
the whole book is just all creatively carved wooden spoons. So people, for some reason, it's picking back up, and it's a fun thing to do. But it's a utility too. You can take it home and you can use it.
Yeah.
Or these things.
I think you should have a Weber wood handle carving class.
We did that already for you.
Oh, you did. You know, there's a website. There's a guy that does custom wooden handles for Weber grills, and you know what he charges for them?
Carved handles. I could.
They're really kind of. They're not. It's not necessarily. It's the same shape for all the handles, but he uses different woods and different finishes to take out the grains, like some really tiger maple with all the different colors going through them. And he sells them for like a set of handles for like $50.
Those little niche businesses, usually guys do really well.
And so he's also there's one of the main websites that got me into my addiction of collecting Webers called the Weber Kettle Club. It's a forum, online forum, and people post pictures of their finds and how to restore the grills, and he's an active member of this club. And through that membership, he's not obnoxiously trying to sell them, but people have found out that he creates. People in there, and he's like, "Here's if you want to buy anything, here, go to my page, and he sells them."
Wow.
So he used to sell them through eBay, and now it took off so much. He has another guy handling the shipping and the billing of the whole thing.
Well, he was smart to be on the forum. That was a smart thing.
Yeah, but I think I do believe this guy. I don't believe that. Has the chicken and the egg.
Yeah.
I think he was on the forum as a lover of Weber kettles and had the skill and marketed this stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't an intentional. He wasn't on there just to market to try to sell product. Right. His name is Brian.
All you Weber Grill guys, you're together.
Well, it's just like falconers, the whole bird, falcon retrieving and stuff like that. Somebody said to me once, David, they spend money on anything. The same type of loyalty, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he gave me this, it was connected to something that was happening in one of the Arab worlds. That he says, they're shipping stuff over there all the time, and they will pay for anything to be customized, just like the grills, you know what I mean? They'll take something as like a carved front, and etc. So.
Wow, that's very specialized.
That's so specialized it's invisible. You'd never even think something like that existed.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So there's that.
I don't think we're complete polar opposites. Do you? Complete?
Not complete. No, I wouldn't say complete. We're very different on a lot of things, though.
Our kids are in the same school.
Yes, two good kids, two good, bright, smart children. That's for sure. That is for sure. We're at an hour and 17 minutes, almost an hour and 18 minutes, tying the other day, which I said was another
longest,
long one. But we have so much. I have 6 more topics on here that I'm pushing off again. So we're gonna have to do another podcast, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. Okay. Heidi, do you have anything else to pimp?
Of course. I
go.
have tons of stuff.
Go, let's go.
is getting ready. So first, June 1st, we have a new class with the youth program at Gloucester Stage, a playwriting class.
Oh, how nice.
So this
That's
is
a
great,
good idea.
and you don't have to be an actor to be involved, or you don't have to, and it's only 4 weeks. And we have one session for 9 to 12-year-olds, and then another one for 9 to 11-year-olds, and then another session for 12 to 18-year-olds. And I have a teacher coming in from Boston University's MFA playwriting program, which is one of the top programs in the country. And she actually lives in Newburyport. I worked with her husband in shows, so she's a published playwright. She was a playwright in residence at Peabody Essex Museum, at all over. And she goes into Boston area high schools as part of the Mass Playwrights Project.
Oh, okay.
And she helps high school students write 10-minute plays, and then they produce them in Boston. So Young Playwrights Workshop, it's Saturday, starts June 1st, and Deirdre Gerard, who is the instructor, is amazing. And we hope that at the end of the workshop that all the students will have a finished 10-minute play. And of course, we have a Young Playwrights Festival at Gloucester Stage in the fall, and if you take the Playwrights Workshop, you get to submit your play before the general public. So you get an inside... you get some inside info, and you also, we have a theme for the Young Playwrights Workshop every year, and member of the festival, and members of the workshop will find that out early.
Oh, okay.
So they can write their plays. And yeah, it's really exciting. It's a great new class. I may even write a play. I want to get in on.
You're not busy enough? Is that what you're telling me?
I want to get in on what Deirdre's doing, and she's really terrific. I'm excited for all the kids around here to meet her, and it's not for a lot of actors will gravitate towards it, but honestly, high school students especially. If you say there's tons of actors are a dime a dozen. I hate to say that. If you are a playwright, that is a tangible skill. You can write a play. Colleges look at that stuff.
Wow.
And then if you get a playwright in a festival, that's even more exciting. So, so it really is a great, especially for all high school kids heading off to college. If you say you're a playwright, that's very helpful.
Are you going to do the plays?
If you get chosen for the Young Playwrights Festival, then we have the festival is in September, and we do an evening of staged readings of the plays.
Oh, that's good.
And the playwrights can decide if they would like to direct their own play.
Right.
They do, and we give them a mentor, a professional and adult mentor. We also, last year I started with professional actors in the kids' plays. So we had 2 professional actors.
Right, so they can see how it gets played out.
Yeah,
that's a good stimulation.
And
too,
then
for
working with the professional actors.
Yeah.
So I had
that's a good idea.
Kids from my youth program in a play with a guy they had seen in Cyrano last year.
Right.
So, and Lindsay Krause wants to come in and do it. She was away last year, but she wants to come in and act in the kids' plays too. It makes like a
psychological jump. Like it's not just their little play anymore. They had it done by like professional actors. So all of a sudden that changes the whole context of everything. That's good.
Yeah, it's really good. And we have our team of apprentices will be arriving soon. Recent college graduates, and they work in all areas of the theater, and they're always involved in the Young Playwrights Festival. So these older kids that the younger kids really admire come in and work on their plays and direct them and act in them and do production elements for them, lighting and sound and things like that. So that makes them feel very, very important too.
Well, that puts wood in the fire too.
Definitely. So that's exciting. That's June 1st. We start the season on June 7th. I know.
With what?
Believe it. Barefoot in the Park, a romantic comedy.
Have any of the actors in that, have they been through Good Morning Gloucester?
Yeah. None of them have actually been.
All podcast virgins?
Paula Plum and Richard Snee. You know what? I can't. Richard Snee might have been here. Paula Plum and Richard Snee are, Gloucester stage royalty. They're a married couple, and they do a lot of shows together. And Paula directed Richard here in something, Out of Sterno, which was a big hit. Yeah. And Richard was the one that was dressed as like the pregnant woman, and he played a bunch of characters. Like Paula just tortured him. And his wife was the director.
So they're coming in the Sunday before?
Probably the Tuesday before. They're rehearsing in Cambridge right now.
They can't be the Frank's back, and we only do Sundays once Frank gets back.
Oh, okay. All right, so let's figure out. Maybe I can get them.
What is the first day of it?
June 7th.
Yeah, no. So the first week of June. We're only doing Sundays starting June 2nd. June 2nd is a Sunday, so they could come June 2nd.
Okay.
That's a Sunday.
Yeah, I will see. And then we have 2. There's an older couple and a younger couple. So the other couple is Michaela Donovan, she was in a show here. She's never been here. And Joe Short, who is our production manager, and their husband and wife as well.
There's a lot of incestuous.
So and we have a.
I'm telling you, late night rehearsals.
That's right. Leads to something.
I'm telling you right now.
Leads to
if
something.
Leon should do. Wait, no. Well, okay, my daughter is not doing that. So yeah, Leon should do like get involved with the theater at school.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's those kids are. That's where it's at.
And they're very loyal to each other, and
they have to have trust because they're actors.
Yeah.
Acting.
Yes.
All right.
So Barefoot in the Park, Neil Simon. It's a comedy. It's a romantic comedy about a young couple living in New York and just got married, and all the pitfalls of the relationship and all of that. Being newlyweds and things like you wouldn't know anything about that.
No, not me.
You have perfection. And so that's the first show. Then we're doing the 39 Steps, which Lewis Wheeler and Amanda Collins, who were in To Kill a Mockingbird, who they are not podcast versions. Remember To Kill a Mockingbird?
Yes, of course.
They came twice.
Yeah.
They're in it. And Paul Melendi, the naked guy.
Naked guy, yeah.
Naked guy's back. And
He's the funniest. He's our funniest guest that we had. Well, him.
Wait a minute. Are you saying he's the funniest? Because I'm going to tell him
between
that.
him and Julia Louis-Dreyfus's husband.
Oh, Brad Hall. Yeah,
Brad Hall.
Brad Hall's
was a tremendous guest.
Yeah, Brad Hall's a good guest.
Yeah, those two guys. Those two are absolute gem guests.
I can't wait because I'm going to tell Paul. You're a gem, so you're one of the highlights. So you have to come back to the podcast. Paul's a great guy.
He has a good time every time he comes.
Paul was in the Young Playwrights Festival too. He was one of the professional. He's just a super.
He's a great
super guy. So they're all.
Is Nate Oakes doing anything with you guys this summer?
Yeah, he's still. I mean, I think Nate is going to be in our playwriting class. So he and he'll still be around. Yep. And
is he actively doing plays?
Yes.
Wasn't he just in the one?
He was in the high school show.
Yeah.
He's in high school now.
That's crazy.
He was in Mamma Mia.
Well, he's like 6'7",
Yeah.
so you don't think of him as a teenager. You think of him as a young adult.
I know.
He has range, so you know what he could do. He's so tall and everything else. He could play. He must have you must have a tough time casting him as a teenager because he's so tall.
Well, it depends. It was like during To Kill a Mockingbird, it was definitely touch and go because that was his growth year.
Yeah.
So, they cast him, and then by the time the show started, he was as tall as Lewis Wheeler, and I think by the time it ended, he was taller.
Yeah.
He grew 6 or 7 inches. But the great thing is he is tall, but he's still a high school boy. So he still has that kind of innocence and youth to him.
Great act. That whole cast. That was such a great show.
Yeah, that was really.
That show was special.
That was really terrific.
Yeah, it seems like wasn't there another? There's another theater group around here that's doing To Kill a Mockingbird.
Mugford Street Players from Marblehead. Yeah. They were going to do it in Marblehead, and ceased and desist. Or they got a cease and desist order from. They had the rights and everything. They paid for them, but the Broadway producer, because To Kill a Mockingbird is breaking all records on Broadway. And it's a new adaptation by Aaron Sorkin, who wrote The West Wing. Mm-hmm. So the Broadway producer, Scott Rudin, even though they had the rights for the play, which people have been doing, sent them a cease and desist, said it was too close to Boston, they couldn't do it. So they had nowhere to go, so Gloucester Stage stepped in and said,
I heard about that.
You can do it at our theater.
Right.
So they were here for about 3 weeks doing To Kill a Mockingbird.
Right.
Yeah. And I think in the end, it was a huge news story. I mean, it was
a little bit of a news story.
The Post, the Times, everywhere. And because it happened to other theaters, too. Other community theaters.
I think it's horseshit once they sell them the rights. If they sell them the rights, they should. Well,
Scott Rudin relented at the end and said, "Oh, well, you could do it, and you could do our production." And they're like, "No, we've been rehearsing for months." Yeah. So anyway, but it's a great show. But we have a lot. The one that Paul Melendi and Amanda and Lewis are in this summer is the 39 Steps, which is the stage adaptation of the Alfred Hitchcock movie. So that's going to be exciting. Mm-hmm. Then we have Ben Butler coming. Ben Butler, who the Ames estate in Gloucester was his home, and he lived in Gloucester. He was a former governor of Massachusetts, and it has to do with some events surrounding the Civil War. He was quite a famous Civil War general.
Wow.
So, and it's a comedy. Civil War comedy. So it should be fun. I mean, I think it's an interesting take. And he has a Gloucester connection. And he was also the governor that originated, the tradition of the long walk, the governor's last day in office.
I do not know that tradition.
So there's a thing where the last day in office, the governor leaves office. He walks alone from his office outside of the State House. And that's a big tradition. And it started with Ben Butler, because I guess he was so unpopular, nobody wanted to be seen with him.
Ooh.
So you'll find out maybe why that was. But now all the governors do that, which is kind of interesting. So, Ben Butler, and then we have one of the highlights of the season, The Lifespan of a Fact, which has only been seen on Broadway. It hasn't been seen anywhere else.
Oh.
The Lifespan of a Fact?
The Lifespan of a Fact. It's a new play. It was on Broadway for a limited run for about 3 or 4 months this winter with Daniel Radcliffe. And Daniel Radcliffe, Cherry Jones, who was she was the president on 24 at one point. And she also started at the American Repertory Theater. And Bobby Cannavale, who's been in tons of stuff.
Yeah.
Bobby Cannavale's super great. And he's been in he's been in Law and Orders, he's been in everything. So they sold out. Like, they announced the show, you couldn't get a ticket. It's about a fact checker and an author who's fast and loose with the facts, and the agent and this and that. So we got the rights.
Wow.
We are the only theater to do the play ever.
Wow.
Outside of Broadway.
Cool.
And it's before it goes on its national tour and everything. And we, of course, have Lindsay Krause starring in it. And then Sam Weisman, who directed Brad and Lindsay in the effect in the show they did. Sam Weisman, also the director of George of the Jungle and some other great things. And his wife was on Knots Landing. Anybody remembers Knots Landing?
Going back.
Yeah. So he is directing it. And one of the other cast members from The Effect, Mickey Solis, there were 4 people in the cast, he's in it as well. So that's going to be a huge, and it's super topical, timely, facts and everything with everything that happens. So that's going to be great. Then a show called Native Gardens, which Kim will probably be all over. I wish she was here.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
It's about 2 couples, an older white couple living in a neighborhood, and they have their garden all perfectly manicured, and then a young Hispanic couple moves in next door, and they want to have native garden, and it's about your neighbors, and we've all had neighbors, so we all know how that works, so I think everyone will relate to it. And then we're ending the season with Hamlet. And Hamlet is played by a girl. And it's going to be a girl, Hamlet. All the other casting is the same. But Hamlet is going to be a girl. And then we have some other great events. Ed Asner's coming.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's going to be here. It'll be a Tuesday night. Maybe you could even... No, you have Wednesdays off. I was going to say maybe you could go. He's doing a show. He's playing God in a show. And it's a show that he tours in. And, I mean, it's an actual production.
Right.
And
one-man show?
I think there are a couple other actors in it. So, and it's going to be Tuesday night.
Let's have him on the podcast.
Wouldn't that be
Tuesday
great?
nights mean consecutive?
We gotta have
one night.
We gotta have him on the podcast.
One night only. Well,
Yeah, you have to
I have to
have
find
that,
out when
yeah.
he's arriving in and get him.
He'll come on the
Yeah.
podcast. Tell him that we do fucking huge numbers here. He needs to come. Let him on the bullshit.
Well, that's true. Well, that's what happened with Louis
just
and
him. Don't bring
Amanda.
anyone else. Just bring
Louis
him.
and Amanda, I asked them, and they were like, "Oh no, we're too tired. We're too busy." And then Bob asked them, and then they're like, "Heidi, we didn't realize how influential the podcast
Huge
was."
influence.
Oh,
Exactly.
So you should put an antenna just so that they can see how far you broadcast on the top of this building.
Oh, yeah.
Listen. I come back. I was off for a couple of days. I come back and I get requests for stickers. Right. Sanford, Maine, Dedham, Mass. Usually I get a bunch from Florida, all over the country, all over the world. People send in for stickers that are fans of the blog. So we do
It's
have
a great
the
blog.
numbers. Yeah.
You do a good job.
Well, we do a good job. It's a group effort. All right, we have to. We have
There's
to.
a lot of great stuff. So go
I
to
have
our
a link.
website.
I have a link to Gloucester Stage for everything that Heidi just mentioned in the 45 minutes that she just went on and on, you could get in 2 seconds if you go directly to click on the link in the show.
But you don't get all my extra added color about things.
Yeah, I know. People are suicidal. People have almost jumped off a fucking ledge listening to that diatribe. But no, we love Heidi. I specifically called Heidi this morning. I says, "What are you doing?" And she goes, I didn't know if she knew who I was. I said, "What are you doing?" I go, "What are you doing?" She goes, "I don't know." She goes, "What's going on?" I go, "Is there a man on top of you right now?" She goes, "No." I go, "Then how come you're not down here coming for the podcast? I haven't seen you in a long time. Are you mad at me?" And then she was still unsure if she was going to come. I'm like, "Are you coming or not?" And she reluctantly came.
No, I committed. Well, I just woke up. Okay. I was up late last night. I was,
Oh, she was getting the hammer.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. GloucesterCast 4. What are we? Jesus Christ. 433. 335. GloucesterCast 335. It just seems like yesterday we were at 300.
It does feel a little bit like.
Where did we tape the 300th?
It was in the winter, wasn't it?
Was it at the? Is
that
that
the Crow's Nest?
Was that the Crow's Nest?
Yeah.
That was the
It seems like it was yesterday. All right.
That was the fall.
GloucesterCast 3. I think it was in October.
Yeah.
It was in October.
All right.
GloucesterCast 335
Yeah, right.
for David Calvo, Pat Dalpiaz, Kim Smith, Heidi Dallin. I said Pat and your host Joey Ciaramitaro. I hope everybody has a great day. Thanks for listening.